Welcome to the MindMatters podcast. In this episode, we explore practical strategies to support children's emotional and social well-being in primary education. Today, we are in the Flemish Institute for Healthy Living, and we are with Eline de Decker, who is a senior staff member for mental well-being and who brings experience both from hands work with students, but also at the development of school well-being initiatives. So welcome, Eileen. Thanks for being with us here today. And could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your work here at the Flemish Institute, but also with students at school?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Eileen. I'm 33 years old and I'm working over more than 10 years at the Institute. And the work we do at the Institute is really to promote healthy lifestyle, also healthy environment in Flanders. And we do not only focus on the physical health, but also on the social and mental health. And that's also the thing that I focus on most is on mental well-being. And I would say that the work we are doing with our team is to be a little bit of a guide alongside a journey, a walk that everybody has to take in life. So the first thing we do is we help people with filling their backpack with strategies like social and emotional strategies to deal with stressors in life, to deal with a lot of challenges. But second of all, not only we are not focusing only on helping individuals, we are also trying to create a landscape in which it's nice to walk, in which it has some bumps, but not really too big of a bump. And we really want to emphasis on this as well because we know that for some, they already have a really heavy backpack filled with a lot of stressors, a lot of bad experiences, and for them, it's really important as well to have a nice landscape or a nice environment where they can really flourish, even though they have a bad experience maybe before. So that's the job I'm doing for the Institute. And alongside that work, I'm also working 1 day a week at a school. It's a primary school and it's a school for special needs education. So we see at school there's a lot of need for social and emotional learning. And it's my job up there to be a support to the care teachers. And I run a switch room, and the switch room is a classroom where students can go preventatively or maybe because the emotions are really high to regulate emotions and stress.
That's very interesting. I have some questions for you about that. So, since you work both at the policy level but also directly with children in special education, how do you see these two perspectives complement each other when it comes to supporting children's well-being?
Yeah, I feel like it's really complementary, the two perspectives, because for example, at the institute, I have uh, in my time there, I can really dive deeper into the scientific evidence, for example, from social emotional learning, and I can take this into the classroom, or I can try to implement it there. And I know that teachers, even though they have they can use the support and the knowledge, they don't have the time to really dive that deep into the matter. So that's really a privilege I know that I can experience right now.
And you mentioned needs or challenges, and I wanted to precisely ask you about that in your day-to-day work with children when you go to this school. What emotional challenges do you see most often in students?
Well, I believe um, at the school, but also the students are they are experiencing special needs as well. So I feel like this is something at school that I'm working at, but maybe it's something as well like um, at other schools as well. But I really feel like the stress and emotion regulation is something that's a really big topic a really big challenge for the children. And as I said before, like they have a big backpack, and you sometimes I compare the backpack with like a little a bucket, a stress bucket, and their bucket is so filled up already even before they arrive at school. So if you just add like a little drop, it overflows, and they just lose control or they get aggressive or and we see that behavior, but we don't always see the whole stress bucket and what's already there. So it's sometimes so hard for the children to regulate the stress and all the emotions that come with it. That I would say this is one of the biggest challenges at school I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
But I would also say, like maybe if I see it in the broader perspective, it's not only in school, but as well, like for example, in preventing addiction, in preventing eating disorder, suicidal thoughts, and so on. We see that the broad range of the social and emotional skills are important. So not only the stress and emotion regulation, but also, like for example, things as being able to plan ahead, being able to form your environment in a way that you can resist a little bit more to the temptations or the peer pressure. Um, so I really believe, like maybe at school, I feel the stress and emotional regulation is really important, but I think it's a broad range of skills or challenges that we have to tackle um, also at school to make sure that we fill the backpack of the child early on with a lot of different skills that they can use later in life.
Okay, and you were mentioning stress. I wanted to ask you about certain emotions like anger or sadness, but it can be even be stress, as you mentioned. When children experience these emotions, um, what do you think, or what have you experienced that makes them feel supported
Well, I think,
and safe?
yeah, I think that's our two really important words, like safe and supported, because as an adult, um, I think it's the two things that we need to create for the child. So, and in my experiences, the way you create the safety and support is to really stand next to the child at the moment where they're experiencing the strong emotions, and to look with them, together with them, like, okay, what can we do in this situation? What will work for you? And in the best case, you can fall back on some tools you've seen already in class that work, or maybe, for example, in our switch room, we have different areas where they can experience different activities and look what works for them. So if you know the child and you know, oh, but for you, in this case, what you need is probably to just be alone, listen to some music. For some other kids, it might be that he wants to get rid of the energy and maybe hit something or just ride a bike or just do something else. So to come back to your question, I think we have to just stand beside the child and really look with them together, like what works in this moment. How can we help you regulate strong emotions? And it's not really easy because sometimes the emotions are really intense and you can't really argue or not really argue, but you can't really talk to the child because they're not able to listen. So I think at that point what's most important is the safety, like from for the child, as well, like being present, like showing that you're there but also listening. So if the child says like, leave me alone, go away, that works a lot of times like that, uh, then I think it's also important to really listen to the signal and to remain close by and say, for example, like, oh, I will be back checking on you for 10 minutes, but I get it. You want to be alone right now. I get it. And then you go back and maybe afterwards you can talk a little. But I also believe like if we don't listen to the child at that point and we ignore the boundaries that they are setting, if we are afterwards we are doing in class a little activity on setting boundaries, then that doesn't work.
As you know, in Mind Matters, we want to develop and pilot a triple psychosocial and emotional resilience toolkit for primary school students. And it's based on LifeCom, which is the European framework for personal, social, and learning to learn key competencies. So now I want to ask you a bit about that, thinking about LifeCom personal area. And if we think especially, for example, about self-regulation competence, could you share one simple activity or routine you use or you have used to help children recognize and manage their own emotions?
Well, I think it's we have to be careful in
Hmm.
talking about one activity or one routine, because I really believe the the students have to get to know what different possibilities there are or what works for them. And I really believe that we should um, not try to do just one activity but really learn what are the range of possible activities that we as adults are doing or we're trying to do, and let them discover what works for them in which situation. So you can, of course, you can help them be self-aware of their emotions by co-regulating and seeing the signals they are sending through their behavior, for example. Or you can help them see what they are feeling if you do breathing exercises or the body scans, for example, because then you feel like, oh, here is a lot of stress. Maybe there is something there. Maybe I feel a little bit of sadness. That's a way to regulate, but also to feel or to check in with emotions. You can do maybe a daily check-in after a lunch break, for example, about how is everybody sitting here. But um, we also feel that maybe it's also our student population that it's not really that easy to be self-aware
Hmm.
of emotions, so that we as adults, as teachers, we can help them a little bit with, I see that you're moving a lot. Are you okay? So we see the behavior, we feel the behavior. It can be moving a lot, but it can also be like being really quiet, being a little bit of a clown in class, being a little bit rude, for example. So those signals mean something. Like something isn't really feeling well, but they
Hmm.
don't have the vocabulary to say it. And
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the work of the Flemish Institute for Healthy Living, which we find very, very interesting. And we know you have contributed to initiatives like happiness in the classroom, but also expedition happiness. Could you tell us a bit to the audience a bit about these initiatives, what they are about?
yeah, sure. So at the Institute, we are developing ready-made materials for teachers they can use in their class. So one of the initiatives is Happiness in a Classroom, and it's actually a website with a broad range of ready-made materials, projects such as Expedition Happiness, information, and some workshops as well that we offer there together in a way that teachers can use as inspiration to work on mental well-being in the classroom, but also they can adapt according to the needs of the school at the class, the time they're having. Um, so it's ready-made, but it's also really adaptable.
Okay.
Everything that's under the umbrella of happiness in a classroom. And maybe two things are interesting when it comes to the social emotional learning. And one thing is Happy Snacks. And Happy Snacks is an activity box. I brought it with me for today. Voila.
Thanks, thanks.
And in this activity box, there are a lot of different activities that teachers can do in school with the students. And some of the activities are just 15 minutes, some of them are like a whole hour, and those are like ideas to train social and emotional learning in a fun way. That isn't like part of a that is part of a broader curriculum, but that everybody can do. A mathematics teacher can do it, um, and they can really implement it during the whole school year, and it's not like a one-shot program. So we have this, and as well, teachers can use it and adapt it as well.
Is it tailored to a specific age?
Well, it's tailored from the whole primary school, actually,
Okay.
because we also believe like some activities will definitely work for a 6-year-old, maybe another school that will also work for a 12-year-old, depending on how the development is going for the child, the preferences of the teacher. Some activities are creative. You have to be comfortable doing something creative. Some of them are more experiencing based. For example, the breathing exercises. If you, as a teacher, don't believe in it or you've not experienced the positive effects, that won't work for you. You won't be able to really show it to the students. So maybe another activity will be better for you as well. So
Okay.
that's why we have a broad range of activities for the whole primary school.
And quite flexible, as I see.
Yeah, I think that's what we need as well, because um, yeah, everybody at school is adapting according to the needs of the school, the class, the children. So even if you make something for the first years, like the 6-year-olds, and one school, the needs will be totally different. If you have a rural school or a more city school, the needs will be different, but still some rural schools you can also not compare to each other. So you really have to be flexible, I believe.
And how these happy snacks have helped children develop personal and social competencies such as emotional resilience, empathy, cooperation with others.
Well, we've seen that, yeah, what we do is we offer a broad range of activities to try and to see what works for me. So actually, we offer opportunities to implement, and we see that this is, yeah, depending on which activity they choose, they training some different skills. Um, and I believe as well, like just by offering opportunities, we make impact on the children.
Thank you. I think I'm learning a lot today. Yeah, and we are heading towards the end of the podcast, but I wanted to ask you a couple more of things. If you had to name one small change schools or teachers could make to better support children's well-being, what would it be?
Well, I would say that there are a lot of really beautiful initiatives already at schools, but sometimes we don't know it from each other. So I think it would be so beneficial to really talk more within the school, but also between schools about how the people or how teachers are approaching the social emotional learning, because I think we can learn a lot from each other. And if you hear something that you think, oh, that might work for me, that might work for my students as well, you can try it and experiment with it. And I would say as well, like if you hear something and you try it and it doesn't really fit already, that's normal, because sometimes those routines and it takes time. Sometimes you need to listen to the feedback of the students, your colleagues saying important stuff as well to make it your own and getting into a routine that works for you, your class. Um, but I really believe that we have to talk to each other more and see how we are approaching it and what works for whom.
The last thing I would like to ask you, what tip would you share with educators working with children who experience intense emotions or need additional support?
Well, I think because the job is quite challenging because of a lot of stress buckets of the children are overflowing all the time, constantly during class, during breaks. Um, that we need to be really self-aware of our own stress bucket as well, and be aware that if we are overflowing and we are or we are just nearly drowning, then we can't really co-regulate, we can't really be open, be patient, and that's really normal. We can't be too how do you say it? We can't be really like, oh no, it's not good, and I should be doing this, and I should be doing this. I'm not a good teacher at right now. It's really normal to, if your stress bucket is really filled with a lot of things, then it's normal we can't give more. So at that point, I really believe, like, be aware of your own stress bucket and look for other people that might not be the class teacher, but might be somebody else who has another class or who has um, more at that point, more is more able to deal with it, to be more patient. Maybe that person can fill in, and that's what I believe in. Is like you have a school community. You're not having to do it all by yourself, because that won't work. It's like to raise a child, you need the village. And I also believe it at schools. We need a whole community of people, and it's not like just one class and the students and one teacher, but it's like a whole, and we have to work together, and we have to be aware of everybody's own stress bucket, especially when you're working with kids who also experiencing a lot of needs and a lot of stressors, and you're experiencing some very destructive behavior. I think we have to really work together um, to make them feel good, and to really, yeah, um, to make sure that you keep on doing your job, and you're liking to doing your job as well.
Thanks a lot, Eileen. Thank you for being with us in this podcast. I think we learned a lot. I have realized how making small changes, listening to children and so on, you can make big changes. So we will keep that in mind and see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.